It all started with a buzz. Not the satisfying buzz of a vintage Valjoux 72 chronograph movement clicking perfectly into place, the kind of sound that had been the rhythm of my life for the past decade. No, this was the electronic, insistent buzz of my phone, lying face down on the polished mahogany of my workshop bench. A notification. Tuesday morning, 10:17 a.m. My world was supposed to be one of ordered precision. I was neck-deep in the guts of a 1958 Patek Philippe, a timepiece so elegant and complex it was practically mechanical poetry. My fiancée Chloe was allegedly communing with her inner chi at a silent yoga retreat in the Berkshires. All was calm. All was bright. The buzz came again. High priority. I sighed, wiping a smudge of oil from my thumb with a chamois cloth. Probably just another supplier update. I flipped the phone over. It wasn't a supplier update. It was a fraud alert from the company's Amex Centurion card. The black card. The one reserved for blowing serious cash on serious business. Charge $18,750. Merchant, Letaha'a Island Resort and Spa, Bora Bora. Details, honeymoon suite, prepayment. I stared at the screen. My brain, usually so adept at parsing tiny, intricate details, simply refused to process the information. It was like trying to fit a sledgehammer into a watch case. Bora Bora? A honeymoon? It had to be a glitch. A very, very expensive glitch. My own wedding was 6 months away. My honeymoon, which Chloe and I had spent hours planning, was a 2-week tour of historic Italian watchmaking towns. Not a beach in sight. My first instinct was to call Chloe. She'd laugh it off. We'd call Amex together. A story to tell at dinner parties. I pulled up her contact and pressed call. Straight to voicemail. Hi, you've reached Chloe. I'm currently on a silent retreat, completely unplugged to find my center. I'll get back to you in 2 weeks. Be blissful. Be blissful, right. A cold, slithering tendril of dread began to snake its way up my spine. I set down the Patek, my hands suddenly unsteady. I logged into the Amex account on my laptop, my fingers fumbling with the password. The charge was there, stark and real. And the booking name wasn't a mistake. It was right there in the confirmation email forwarded to the corporate account. Reservation for Mr. and Mrs. Julian Croft. Julian Croft. The name meant nothing to me. A complete stranger had apparently booked a honeymoon suite on my business account. I felt a surge of indignant rage, the kind you get when you've been wronged by a faceless corporation. But this felt different, more personal. I scrolled through the recent transaction history, a knot tightening in my stomach. And then I saw it. A charge from 2 days ago. Merchant, Vera Wang. Bridal gown. Detail, rush alteration. My blood went cold. My Patek sat on the bench, its intricate movement exposed, a perfect metaphor for my life at that exact moment. Something precious and carefully constructed had just been smashed open, revealing a tangle of ugly, incomprehensible gears. I'm not a social media guy. I find it endlessly exhausting. But Chloe lived on it. Her friends lived on it. With a sense of impending doom, I opened Instagram, a digital world I usually avoided like a cheap quartz replica. I went to the page of Chloe's best friend, a woman named Madison whose entire life seemed to be a series of sponsored brunches. Her latest post was from 10 hours ago. A photo. It was Chloe. She was radiant, beaming, her smile wider and more genuine than I'd seen in months. She was wearing a stunning, backless wedding gown, and she was kissing a man. A man with a jawline you could slice diamonds on, and hair that looked artfully windswept by a team of stylists. He was handsome in the most infuriating, generic way possible. He was not me. They were standing in front of the sweeping windows of a private airport terminal, the geotag, LAX, and the caption, a string of words that hit me like a physical blow. Off to forever. Have the most incredible honeymoon, you two. So happy I could be there for your beautiful whirlwind wedding. She said yes, surprise wedding. I clicked on the photo, zooming in. The man had his arm wrapped possessively around Chloe's waist. He was tagged Julian Croft. The business account, the yoga retreat, the wedding dress, the new husband, the honeymoon. My money. I didn't shout. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there in the quiet of my workshop, the scent of polishing compound and old leather in the air, and felt the delicate, precise mechanism of my entire life shatter into a million irreparable pieces. The Patek on my desk had a perpetual calendar designed to keep perfect time for 100 years. Mine had just exploded. Be blissful, her voicemail had said. Oh, I was feeling something all right. And it wasn't bliss. The first hour was a blur of cold, quiet rage. The next 12 were a masterclass in forensic fury. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I locked myself in my home office, fueled by black coffee and a brand of incandescent betrayal that felt hot enough to forge steel. I am a man of details. My entire livelihood, the very soul of Vance timepieces, is built on an obsessive attention to the minute. The subtle patina on a 1940s Lemania chronograph, the correct beveling on a gear tooth, the specific serial number range for a pre-moon Omega Speedmaster. I live and breathe minutiae. And now I turned that obsession onto the woman I was supposed to marry. I treated my company's financial records like an archaeological dig site, and Chloe was Pompeii. The honeymoon and the wedding dress weren't the start of it. They were the grand finale of a meticulously planned campaign. The initial findings were what you'd expect, the death by 1,000 cuts. Client dinners at restaurants we had no clients near. Marketing materials from Gucci. Office decor from a high-end furniture store that apparently specialized in $1,000 throw pillows. It was brazen. It was insulting. But it was the deeper dive that truly revealed the artistry of her deception. 6 months ago, she'd sat across from me at our kitchen island, her expression a perfect blend of concern and adoration. "Alex, honey," she'd said, pushing a stray strand of blonde hair from her face. "You're so buried in your work. You shouldn't have to worry about approving every little expense. Let me handle the corporate accounts. I can manage the accounting software, categorize everything. It'll free you up to do what you love." I'd felt a surge of gratitude. She got me. She wanted to help carry the load. I'd given her the passwords, the executive card, my complete and utter trust. I was a fool. A smiling, love-struck idiot. Now, looking at the records, I saw her help for what it was. A hostile takeover. She hadn't just been stealing. She'd been building a separate life right under my nose, using my own infrastructure. There were charges for a private mail drop service in a different city. A 6-month rental on a high-end storage unit, logged under asset archiving. And then there were the travel expenses for one Mr. Julian Croft. Dozens of them. First-class flights from New York to LA, logged as consultant travel. 5-star hotel stays categorized as market research site visits. She was flying her lover around the country on my dime while I was working late, restoring the very watches that paid for it all. The absolute masterpiece of her fraud, the Mona Lisa of her deceit, was a down payment on a luxury condo in Santa Monica. She had somehow managed to disguise the wire transfer as a capital investment in a new German polishing machine. I had even complimented her on her initiative. "Great find, Chloe. This will really speed up our finishing process." I could practically hear her laughing. My rage began to cool, crystallizing into something harder and sharper. The heartbreak was still there, a dull, throbbing ache in my chest. but it was being eclipsed by a profound sense of violation. She hadn't just cheated on me. She had looked at my life's work, the company I had bled for, and seen it as nothing more than her personal piggy bank, a launch pad for her and Captain Jawline. The final straw, the detail that pushed me over the edge from heartbroken victim to a man bent on methodical annihilation, was a small charge from 3 weeks ago. It was for a custom-engraved silver picture frame. Using the vendor's reference number, I found the order. The frame was for a picture of her and Julian, smiling on a beach. The engraving read, "Our adventure begins. Love always, C." That was it. That was the moment the sadness died, and something else was born. She hadn't just left me. She was actively building a new narrative, a new history, paid for with my past. I didn't need a friend. I didn't need a drink. I needed a weapon. I remembered a conversation years ago with my first major investor, a grizzled old real estate tycoon named Marcus Thorne. "Kid," he'd grunted, "in business you have 3 numbers on speed dial. Your doctor, your accountant, and a lawyer who makes other lawyers cry. For the third one you call Isabel Rossi." I'd saved the number under the wolf. I'd never thought I'd need it. My hand was perfectly steady now. The tremor was gone, replaced by a chilling sense of purpose. I pulled up the contact, the coffee buzzing in my veins, the image of that engraved picture frame burning in my mind. I pressed dial. The revenge had begun. Isabel "Izzy" Rossi's office was not what I expected. There were no mahogany desks or leather-bound law books. It was a glass-walled corner office overlooking the city, furnished with a stark, minimalist aesthetic that screamed efficiency and a complete lack of sentimentality. It was less a law office and more a command center for a very stylish corporate war. And then there was Izzy. She was sharp, dressed in a tailored gray suit that probably cost more than my first car, with dark hair pulled back so tightly it looked like it might snap. She didn't offer coffee. She didn't offer sympathy. She offered a chair, and then she waited, her intelligent dark eyes assessing me with the impassive curiosity of a biologist studying a new specimen. "Mr. Vance," she said, her voice as crisp as a fresh banknote. "Marcus Thorne speaks highly of you. He said you were smart. Don't waste my time by being emotional. Give me the facts." So I did. I walked her through it all, not with the frantic energy of a jilted lover, but with the cold precision of a watchmaker detailing a catastrophic failure. I had my laptop, a detailed spreadsheet organized by date, category, and fraudulent justification, and a folder of evidence including Madison's Instagram post and the honeymoon reservation. She listened without interruption, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she steepled her long fingers, her gaze fixed on the spreadsheet projected onto the wall-mounted screen. $187,452.16, she said, reading the total from my spreadsheet. "That's what you found so far." She was busy. "She was," I said, my voice tight. "I want to sue. I want my money back. I want to ruin their honeymoon." Izzy offered the ghost of a smile. It wasn't a warm expression. It was the satisfied smirk of a predator who has just spotted a particularly slow, juicy target. "Mr. Vance." "Alex," she said, leaning forward. "Suing for the money is what they expect. It's a cost of doing business for people like this. They'll hire a lawyer, drag it out for a year, and offer to settle for 50 cents on the dollar. You'll get some of your money back, and they'll get to enjoy the other $90,000 of it. That isn't justice, that's a discount." She stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the traffic below. "You've built a business based on legacy, on things that last. Value, precision, trust. What she did was an insult to all of that. We're not going to send them a sternly worded letter. We are going to conduct a legal disassembly of their entire lives. We're going to do it so quickly and so thoroughly that they won't even have time to order another cocktail. I felt a surge of something dark and exhilarating. This was it. This was the feeling I'd been searching for through the fog of betrayal. "What do you have in mind?" I asked. "This isn't a simple civil suit," she explained, turning back to me, a fire now visible in her eyes. "This is a multi-front war. Front 1, corporate malfeasance. We don't just sue her. We file an emergency injunction based on demonstrable, ongoing fraud. We petition a judge to freeze her assets, every bank account, every credit card, every stock she ever bought with her allowance." We turn off the tap. Immediately. She started pacing, the energy in the room shifting from clinical to predatory. "Front 2, criminal charges. What you have here isn't just embezzlement. It's a textbook case of wire fraud. Using electronic communications, your Amex account, the accounting software, to perpetrate a fraud crosses state lines. That's not just my jurisdiction, that's the FBI's. A criminal investigation has a way of getting people's attention far more effectively than a civil summons." She paused in front of me. "And front 3, my personal favorite. The partner. Who is this Julian Croft? A charming benefactor or a co-conspirator? We hire a private investigator, not some gumshoe who sits in a car. I have a man who is a forensic accountant with a talent for digital archaeology. We will find out if Mr. Croft has paid taxes in the last 5 years. We will find out if his car is leased. We will find out what he had for breakfast and who paid for it. We will build a complete picture of this man, and I guarantee you it will not be pretty." I stared at her, a slow, grim smile spreading across my face. She wasn't a wolf. She was a great white shark, and I had just shown her a boatload of chum. "You seem to enjoy this," I observed. "I enjoy elegantly designed systems," she replied, sitting back down. "A fine watch, a well-structured contract, a perfectly executed legal strategy. Your fiancée and her new husband have created a system of chaos and theft. I take immense professional satisfaction in dismantling such systems. So, Alex, do you want to ask for your money back, or do you want to get even?" The question hung in the sterile air of her office. The image of Chloe's smiling face at the airport, the casual cruelty of it all, flashed in my mind. The heartbreak was still there, a phantom limb, but it was being dwarfed by this new, powerful alliance. I was no longer just a victim. I was a client. I was a partner in my own revenge. "Let's get even," I said. Izzy's smile widened, just a fraction, but this time it reached her eyes. "Good. I'll have the injunctions filed by 5 p.m. They should be getting the news right around sunset in Bora Bora. Let's see how they enjoy paradise when they're locked out of their room." For the next 48 hours, Izzy's office became my world. We operated with the focused intensity of a NASA mission control team on the verge of a critical launch, while Chloe and Julian were undoubtedly posting filtered photos of their feet in the sand, with captions like #living the dream. We were methodically pulling the plug on that dream from 5,000 miles away. Izzy was magnificent. She moved with a speed and ferocity that was both terrifying and beautiful to watch. Phone calls were made. Affidavits were sworn. Digital paperwork flew across the internet with the destructive force of drone strikes. "Injunction granted," she announced coolly on Wednesday afternoon, not even looking up from her screen. "Her personal bank accounts are frozen as of now." The judge agreed the flight risk and potential for asset concealment were too high. "What about the cards?" I asked, hunched over my own laptop, feeding data to her PI. "Amex has already red-flagged every transaction, reversed the Honeymoon charge, and canceled the card. Visa and MasterCard will follow within the hour," she said. "The tap is officially off." I felt a grim sense of satisfaction. It wasn't joy, not yet. It was the feeling of a broken mechanism being forced back into alignment. The real bombshell, however, came from Izzy's private investigator, a former Mossad agent named Ari, who communicated in clipped, brutally efficient emails. Ari wasn't interested in grainy photos. He was interested in data trails. And the data trail left by Julian Croft was a spectacular disaster movie. Izzy swiveled her monitor toward me on Thursday morning. "Meet Jacob Thorne," she said. On the screen was a driver's license photo of the same handsome man, but with a different name. Below it was a dossier that made my stomach churn. Julian Croft didn't exist. Jacob Thorne very much did. He wasn't old money wealthy. He was a professional parasite. Ari's report laid it all out in a neat, horrifying timeline. A string of at least 4 other women in the last 5 years, all of them successful or with access to wealth. A realtor in Scottsdale, an art gallery owner in Miami, a dental practice manager in Dallas. The pattern was identical. He would sweep in, a whirlwind of charm and fabricated success. He'd romance them, gain their trust, and then identify a financial vulnerability, a company account, a family trust, a weak business partner. He'd convince them to start siphoning funds, always under the guise of building a future together, of escaping their current, unfulfilling lives. And then, once he had squeezed them dry, he would vanish, leaving them to face the financial and legal ruin alone. Reading the report, a sick, complicated feeling washed over me. I looked at the photos of the other women Ari had found. They looked smart, capable, and completely snowed, just like I had been. "So, what does this mean?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "Is Chloe in on it with him? Is this their joint venture?" "That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?" Izzy mused, leaning back in her chair. "Is she a co-conspirator, or is she just the latest and most profitable victim on his list? Is she the Bonnie to his Clyde? Or is she just the getaway driver who's about to be left on the side of the road?" The thought was jarring. The idea of Chloe, my Chloe, or the woman I thought was my Chloe, being a pawn in an even bigger, more cynical game was almost too much to process. For a moment, a flicker of pity sparked within me. Then I remembered the silver picture frame. "Our adventure begins." No. She knew what she was doing. She made her bed. Just then, an email pinged in Izzy's inbox. It was from Ari. The subject line was a single word: checkmate. The body of the email contained a screenshot of a flight confirmation. It was for a one-way ticket, booked 3 days ago, departing from Tahiti's Fa'a International Airport. The destination was Grand Cayman. The flight was scheduled to leave in less than 24 hours. The passenger's name wasn't Alex Vance. It wasn't Julian Croft. It was a third alias entirely. And it was for a single passenger. Izzy and I locked eyes over our laptops. The entire sordid picture snapped into focus with sickening clarity. Julian, or Jacob, whatever his name was playing his classic move. He was planning to drain whatever final funds they had, ditch Chloe in Bora Bora with a mountain of debt and a fraudulent marriage, and disappear into the welcoming, non-extradition embrace of the Caribbean. My revenge had just become infinitely more complicated and infinitely more poetic. I wasn't just going after the woman who betrayed me. I was about to save her from the man she betrayed me for, and in doing so, serve them both a punishment more fitting than I could have ever imagined. I leaned back, a slow, humorless laugh escaping my lips. I imagined the scene playing out at that very moment. The sun would be setting over their perfect turquoise lagoon. They'd be dressed for another extravagant dinner, ready to post another smug selfie. And then the bill would come. The card would be declined. The manager would approach. The beautiful, curated dream, paid for with my life's work, was about to pop like a soap bubble. The honeymoon was officially over. The call came on Friday. They were back. Not by choice, of course. Apparently, the Letaha'a resort frowns upon guests who can't pay their astronomical bills. After a humiliating 24 hours of being confined to their suite, while the hotel management and local authorities figured things out, they were escorted to the airport with just their passports and the designer clothes on their backs. Julian's planned escape to the Caymans had been thwarted. Their return flight was a masterpiece of misery, paid for by a wire transfer from Chloe's horrified parents. And now, they were here, in Izzy's conference room. The room was as sterile and unforgiving as her office. A long, polished table, 12 chairs, and a view of the smoggy city skyline. It felt like a place where dreams went to die. Perfect. I sat on one side of the table, with Izzy next to me. I felt a strange, detached calm. Like a surgeon before a complex operation, the rage had burned itself out, leaving behind only the cold, hard certainty of what needed to be done. The door opened, and they were ushered in by Izzy's paralegal. Chloe looked deflated. The radiant bride from the Instagram photo was gone, replaced by a pale, haggard woman with puffy eyes and a Chanel dress that now looked like a costume. Julian, however, was another story. Even in these circumstances, he oozed a slick reptilian charm. He wore the legal summons like a fashion accessory, a slight, unbothered smile on his face, as if this was all just a tedious, bureaucratic mix-up. He reached out a hand to me. "Alex, I think there's been a massive misunderstanding." I looked at his manicured hand and then back at his face. I didn't move. "I don't," I said. We all sat. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. Chloe refused to look at me, her gaze fixed on a microscopic scratch on the table's surface. Julian, ever the performer, took center stage. "Look," he began, his voice smooth as aged whiskey. "Clearly some wires got crossed. Chloe may have been a little overzealous in managing the accounts. A mistake, to be sure, but nothing that can't be rectified. We're prepared to pay back any funds that were misallocated." "Misallocated," Izzy repeated, her voice dripping with mock curiosity. "Is that what you call booking a $30,000 wedding and honeymoon package on your fiancé's boss's credit card? A misallocation?" Chloe flinched. "It was a loan," she blurted out, her voice cracking. "I was going to pay you back, Alex. I was—" "With what money, Chloe?" I asked, my voice flat and devoid of emotion. "The money from the German polishing machine that doesn't exist, or the money from your salary as my new director of marketing, a position you gave yourself?" Her face crumpled. The tears started right on cue. It was a performance I'd seen before, one she used to win any argument. But this time the theater was empty. "Alex, please," she sobbed. He talked me into it. Julian said you were so wealthy you'd never even notice. He said we deserved a beautiful start." Julian shot her a look of pure ice. "Don't be ridiculous, darling. You were the one with the access." And there it was, the first crack in their united front. They were already turning on each other. Izzy chose that moment to slide a folder across the table. It landed softly in front of Julian. "I believe this is yours, Mr. Thorne." Julian's smile finally faltered. He opened the folder. Inside was his real driver's license, a list of his known aliases, and headshots of the 4 other women he had conned. His face went pale. The mask of the charming millionaire evaporated, revealing the cheap, cornered hustler underneath. "This is slander," he hissed, but the conviction was gone. "Is it?" Izzy countered, her voice like silk-wrapped steel. "Because we have sworn affidavits from Miss Albright in Scottsdale and Mrs. Davies in Miami. They are very eager to speak with the FBI about their own misallocations. It seems you have a type." She then turned her attention to Chloe, who was staring at the file, her eyes wide with a dawning, sickening horror. "And Chloe, you were next on the list." Izzy slid a second piece of paper across the table. It was the flight confirmation. One way, Tahiti to Grand Cayman. Passenger 1. "He was never going back with you," Izzy said softly, but her words echoed in the room like a gunshot. "He was going to drain the last of my client's money, the money you stole for him, and leave you in Bora Bora to take the fall for wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. He wasn't your partner. He was your exit plan." That was the moment. The true, sweet, terrible revenge. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the lawsuit. It was about this single, crystallizing instant of clarity. I watched Chloe's face as she processed the information. The betrayal she had inflicted on me was now being reflected back at her, magnified tenfold. The man she had destroyed her life for, the man she had married in a whirlwind romance, had seen her as nothing more than a tool, a disposable key to a bank account. The tears she was crying now weren't for me. They weren't for show. They were the real, agonizing tears of a person whose entire reality had just been revealed as a lie. She looked at Julian, her expression a toxic cocktail of hatred, disbelief, and self-loathing. He wouldn't meet her gaze. He was done. They were both done. Izzy leaned back, her work complete. "So," she said to the room at large, "now that we're all clear on the situation, shall we discuss how you're going to pay my client back?" The aftermath wasn't the champagne-popping victory lap I might have imagined in my darkest, angriest moments. It was quiet. It was paperwork. It was the slow, grinding process of legal fallout. Faced with a mountain of evidence and the threat of a multi-state federal investigation, Julian folded completely. Chloe, shattered and utterly alone, took the plea deal Izzy offered. She agreed to testify against Julian, detailing their entire scheme in exchange for lesser charges. I saw the headlines a few weeks later. Honeymoon con man busted after final score. There was a picture of Julian, no longer looking slick and handsome, but haggard and defeated, being led into a courthouse. There was a certain satisfaction in it, but it was a thin, watery broth, not the rich stew of vengeance I had craved. The legal process managed to claw back about 60% of the money. The rest was gone, spent on clothes, flights, and the kind of ephemeral luxuries that vanish into thin air. My business took a hit, there was no doubt. It set me back a year, maybe more. But it wasn't destroyed. The foundation was solid, I was solid. The strangest part was the silence. The rage that had fueled me for those first few weeks was gone. In its place wasn't happiness, but a profound, almost unnerving sense of peace. The revenge hadn't been the point. The point had been the process, the act of taking back control, of refusing to be a victim, of methodically dismantling the mess that had been made of my life. The victory wasn't in their punishment. It was in my own survival. Months passed. The seasons changed. I threw myself back into my work, but with a different kind of energy. The frantic need to build and expand was replaced by a quiet dedication to the craft itself. I found solace in the steady tick of an escapement wheel, in the patient work of bringing something broken and forgotten back to life. One crisp autumn afternoon, the bell on my workshop door chimed. It was Izzy. She wasn't wearing one of her intimidating power suits. She was in jeans and a simple black sweater, holding a cardboard tray with 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need a break from talking to tiny gears all day," she said, a small, genuine smile on her face. "They're better conversationalists than most of my recent acquaintances," I quipped, taking a cup. The coffee was good, strong. We stood there for a moment, the silence comfortable, surrounded by the ghosts of timepieces past. "I heard the sentencing came down for Thorne," she said. 7 to 10. He won't be conning anyone for a while." "And Chloe?" I asked, surprised that I felt anything at all. Probation? A hefty fine. She's living with her parents. From what I hear, she's diminished. I nodded, looking down at the workbench. In front of me lay the Patek Philippe from that fateful morning. It had taken me months, but I had finally finished restoring it. Its movement was pristine, its case gleaming. It was scarred, sure. If you looked closely enough, you could see where the damage had been, where the pieces had been painstakingly put back together. But it was whole. It was working. It was beautiful. You know, I said, picking it up gently, when a piece like this gets badly damaged, you can't erase what happened to it. The history is part of it now. The trick isn't to make it look like it was never broken. The trick is to restore its function, to make its scars part of its story, and to make sure it keeps perfect time from this day forward. Izzy looked from the watch to my face, a deep understanding in her eyes. It's a beautiful system, she said softly. I wound the crown, and the second hand began to sweep, smooth and steady, a new beginning. I smiled. A real smile this time, one that started from somewhere deep inside. Yeah, I said, the aroma of coffee mingling with the scent of old, reliable machinery. It really is